All right, Don, Tim, thanks for joining me today. Again, we're here to discuss more about Ultravation products. For you gentlemen, for Pyramid AC, we're obviously going to target the commercial side of things. I will drop a couple of things throughout that do exist residentially, but then apply to the commercial world too, because I know people are using them in both apparatuses. As far as this industry goes, I've been at this for going on 8 years now. I've actually been around training and technology and sales and marketing for over 20, but I handle New Jersey, PA, all of upstate New York. My colleague who founded Sales Management Solutions as the rep firm, she's the one who's usually out in New York City Metro, Long Island. We deal a lot with other companies out there as well, like SW Anderson's a big relationship of hers. So we're out in Long Island a lot when we're not locked down during quarantine. So that being said, let's hop in. So the whole point of this agenda here, and again, we're going to tailor it to more commercial today, is we're defining IAQ technology. We're understanding UVC versus UVGI. These are terms heavily used in the ASHRAE handbook and the ASHRAE guidelines. And then obviously discussing this training in relation to ASHRAE guidelines and the ASHRAE handbook, especially chapter 62. And then we're going to differentiate some stuff from the competition as well, just to help you understand why our technology is kicking it up a notch. So, and there's some legit differences. So that being said, I don't care, granted this mock-up is a residential mock-up, but it applies in both worlds. When you walk onto a job site, it's a when, where, why, right? So when do they want to accomplish this as far as in the return or in the supply, where, why? But the biggest thing is we're dealing with filtration. In IAQ, the three biggest important things in IAQ is filtration, UV disinfection, and UV air purification. We clarified there is a difference. UV disinfection applies to surfaces. UV air purification applies to airborne. And we do have other technologies nowadays that aid with some of the air supply situations too. Now, granted, this is a residential product in the picture, but this is commercial. Of the upper right-hand corner here, this is actually a very small cutout, and I'll show you this later, of our Orion ion generator. So that is a ionization generation device that doesn't use UV light at all. It generates negative and positive ions for improving filtration and air purification without UVC light. It's not necessarily called out in the ASHRAE handbook, but some of our technology adds that in along with the UVC and the UVGI. So that being said, let's pop in here. Let's clarify some terms, okay? The IAQ that Ultravation can impact as far as technology-wise is UVGI, PCO, and ionization. So reason why I clarify UVGI is that is what the ASHRAE guideline refers to. That is what the handbook talks about. A lot of people don't realize. They just throw around the word UV all the time. If you are dealing with UVC wavelength bulbs in a residential or a commercial application, then technically you're applying UVGI technology into or onto that system. So it's important to clarify that. That comes right out of the handbook. You can't just keep throwing around UV all the time because there's actually different wavelength spectrums, right? We'll get into that as well. So it's good just to help clarify these terms. And again, I have links on all of this on our website at smsteam.co. We have IAQ related blogs. We even have a commercially specific video we had put out at the beginning of all of this. And we have all these resource links directly to the CDC, directly to the ASHRAE write-ups, and directly to actually chapter 62 of their handbook. We found it publicly listed as a downloadable PDF all by itself. So that's great, a little tool for you guys as well. And I can send that to you if you don't already have it. So PCO, photocatalytic oxidation. We actually primarily use this heavily in the residential space, but it is actually available as options on our commercial stuff that I'll show you later as well. The biggest thing we wake up call here is a lot of people don't think everything's the same. They think it's UV light and you're done. Well, it is important to let people know, especially on the high-end residential, especially on the commercial, that people can amplify their air purification by adding in PCO technology. And again, it stands for photocatalytic oxidation. Long story short, you need two things. You need to have a UVC wavelength bulb, and you got to have a surface that has titanium dioxide on it as a coating or infused into it, like on our carbon products. So we have carbon, we have metal, whatever. Titanium dioxide is the catalyst element, and you need UVC wavelength light to activate it. And that's what creates basically like a airborne field around the product when it's mounted in the ductwork that is increasing your air disinfection rate, killing things, breaking down odors, deodorizing, all of that. So I have a very short video to show you guys that'll be on this. And it's just to animate you, explain what's happening. Now, granted, the video is residentially based. It's actually showing our in-duct solution, but it gives you the idea of how this reaction happens and explains to you the science behind it. So let me switch over to that screen here real quick. And let's make sure audio is enabled. Yes. All right. So here's the animation. Very short and sweet.
Here's how it works. The UV Photomex Advanced Oxidation Module is coated with an exclusive titanium dioxide formulation. When UV light is applied to the surface, the titanium dioxide coating becomes energized, causing it to release electrons. The electrons then combine with oxygen to create what are known as superoxides. The titanium dioxide then collects replacement electrons from moisture in the air to become charged particles known as hydroxyl radicals. Together with the superoxides, a powerful photocatalytic oxidation, or PCO field, is created. As odors, germs, mold, and other VOC organic molecules approach the PCO field, they are disassembled as the oxidizers pull electrons from them. The purification process is completed, with the remaining molecules recombining to form simple water vapor and trace amounts of carbon dioxide. Ultravation's advanced oxidation.
All right. So all the fun science and all that aside, long story short, there's an airborne field around the device that cannot be created unless you have a UVC wavelength bulb and you have some type of accessory or apparatus that has the titanium dioxide on it. That creates the catalyst effect that adds that into the atmosphere, so to speak, within the ductwork. So as the air is passing by all day long, return through the supply, going through, it's constantly passing through that field and getting treated with that process, which per the end of the video there, as you can tell, it breaks things down and into basic water vapor afterwards. So it's breaking down airborne components. So, and this stuff, again, video is residentially targeted, but it is something that can be added onto some of our commercial products as well. Is it absolutely required for commercial? We'll get into that. No, it's adding another layer of air disinfection and air purification into an existing solution. But that's the other technology that we heavily push, obviously, from Ultravation, because again, everything is still based on the UVC wavelength bulb. The last component here, ionization. Again, this is non-UVC technology. There is no UVC bulbs, so you cannot say you're applying UVGI, but ionization is actually used a lot more these days. It actually existed before all of this. Ionization is old school, and the UVC wavelength and the PCO stuff became newer school, and then ionization made a comeback because some people don't want anything to do with a UVC bulb. Now, again, per ASHRAE handbook, ASHRAE guidelines, that's what we care about right now for dealing with our concerns with HVAC. But ionization is available. We have an ion generator. It's not just for improving filtration. We have people using ionization on ice machines. I have people using them on PTAC units. So there is a benefit in those types of environments as well. And again, long story short on that, just from an educational standpoint, I have a second video just to show the animation of that so you just understand what's going on. But the short, quick, if I was going to go keep it super simple, is ionization is taking a thunderstorm or a lightning storm in the sky and putting it in your HVAC system. So that's what that ion generator does. It has two electrodes. It is generating negative ions and positive ions into the air. And then it is helping all these airborne particulates like odors and VOCs, viruses, bacteria, all that stuff get charged with those ions. And then since negative and positive attract, you're helping these microparticulates that might be too small to actually get better caught into whatever commercial or residential filtration system you have. So that's the advantage of having an ion generator in there. And again, great for residential, but also great for commercial too, especially people trying to get better results out of a filtration system if they don't have higher end, for example, MERV 11 or MERV 13 class indoor air quality filtration. So that's ion generation, thunderstorm fresh air. I mentioned this because our higher end residential induct product that has been used commercially has the ion generation added into it. I'll show you that in a little bit here, but we added that in on top of the UVC wavelength bulb as well. So it's kind of like giving you the best of both worlds, a lot of punch. Again, per ASHRAE, this actually image here came right out of chapter 62. It is they're dealing with Airstream, they're dealing with surface, okay? There's two parts of this relationship. We're going to show that to you in a few slides here, how it relates to bacteria and viruses as well. Again, up on the right side here, I got all these links on our website, or I can email them to you as well if you ever need these for additional resources to work with you and your customers. Again, I'm trying to keep everything aligned with CDC and ASHRAE. Clarification. We have heard and seen products out there that are emitting UVB and UVA wavelength light. If you're aligned with CDC and ASHRAE, you're not meeting the standards. You should only be working with products that involve UVC wavelength lamps. Now, granted, that's all we have. That's all Ultravation moves, and most legit UV manufacturers and product manufacturers should be using that. It does give off some UVB, UVA, but the most destructive piece of that spectrum is UVC. X-ray machines, all the way to visible light, doesn't matter. UVC has been found to be the most destructive wavelength of UV light. It literally renders microorganisms lifeless. It breaks down airborne, viruses. It does deactivate live components. That's why CDC recommends it. That's why the ASHRAE talks about it. And the biggest impact here is that this purple sphere is a great representation, right? So at the very center, picture that being the tip of the UVC bulb. So as you move outward from the body of the bulb or the body of the lamp, you are decreasing in intensity. So obviously the closer a lamp is mounted to a coil surface, the more potent and strong it is because you're hammering it with those levels of microwatts. So we pretty much look at any of our commercial designs or residential designs, you're gonna have, if you're dealing with surface area, that bulb's gonna be under 12 inches from the surface area. It's going to be mounted on a rack commercially or mounted magnetically mounted in a residential application closer to that coil area, just to help render that surface area from being basically having live components, bacteria, streptococcus, things of that nature. So again, UVC wavelength is where it's at. That's what we care about. UVA and UVB exist coming out, but we don't care about them. It's all about UVC. That is the most destructive. That is the most dangerous, especially for contractors working with it. You do not turn these things on while you're working on them. Okay, we even sell special goggles if they want to have the goggles, and you're not supposed to touch the bulbs with your skin because you don't want the oils getting on the glass. So there's a lot of basically basic understandings of that. But long story short, have an on-off switch when you're servicing the equipment. We usually do on commercial applications, we put pressure switches on the doors or something like that. But you do not want to walk into an environment with this stuff glowing because you will burn your retinas and you will possibly get some skin burns as well. It is that dangerous. So that being said, UVC is all we care about from the electromagnetic UV spectrum. Again, per ASHRAE guidelines, you're actually not putting UVC technology in HVAC. You're putting UVGI technology. That is the technology, that is the tool that is generated when you are applying products using UVC wavelength lamps, aka bulbs, to sterilize, neutralize stuff. So that's your biggest definition that we should be following. And again, so if I'm applying it on a coil surface, great, I'm applying UVGI on the coil. If I'm installing this in the Airstream, great, I'm solving and installing UVGI technology into the Airstream. Commercially, there's upper room applications, which I'll show you in a bit, that deal with large, wide open spaces. So that's specifically per Chapter 62, they actually have images in there showing upper room applications. So those are based on convective air. I have to explain that a little bit differently. But again, as long as you have a UVC wavelength bulb in an upper room design product, you're applying UVGI technology to that wide open upper room space. And then lastly here, obviously we talked a lot about PCO. So at the core, you have to have UVC bulbs. So at the core, you're always going to have UVGI in the application. But if you're adding in an Airstream product that uses PCO, then you could say, great, I'm installing UVGI technology in the Airstream plus adding PCO, aka photocatalytic oxidation. Because without the UVC wavelength bulb in the UVGI technology, you can't create the PCO. That is a required component. So, and again, some of our commercial stuff, you can add that on. T3, all of our commercial systems, T3 is standard. Residentially, you can still get a basic UV bulb. Not all bulbs are created equal. And our commercial customers love these things because the way we patented this design, we took a standard UVC wavelength bulb, which all UVC bulbs are guaranteed for 2 years, but that does not give you life cycle of 2 years. They're guaranteed to light up and glow, but are you getting the same efficiency and potency out of the lamp? Standard 1 year life bulbs do not. And we sell them too, but not on our commercial stuff. Everything is T3 standard. Why? Because they emit 40% energy. Why? Right here is the mock-up. You have a bulb. We figured out, let's take a quartz sleeve, slide it over the bulb, seal some gas in between, and I've insulated and protected the bulb. Why is that important? Well, in the summertime, that environment gets really cold with the cooling system if you guys designed it right. So in the red spectrum here on the graph, that's a standard UVC wavelength bulb in an HVAC system.
I'm not seeing the picture, Scott.
You're not?
No.
Hold on. Let me switch. There we go. How about now?
There you go. There you go.
All right. My apologies. So, and actually, let's go back then, because there's one slide here I wanted to clarify. This was our checklist. So that's what I just got done going through. And again, I can send you guys a slide deck, but we're just clarifying these explanations and the use of UVC versus UVGI. Did I really make that clear, I hope?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I hate to overly dwell on that, but again, people are throwing down all different kinds of terms these days. We want to make sure everything is standardized. So anyway, so as I was saying, there's the bulb. So there's your bulb encased in quartz, and then obviously a gas layer as an insulator. The advantage of that is, per this power graph, okay, I'm plugging in, these bulbs are almost the same, right? Non-T3, T3, but the advantage of that insulation, the advantage of that patented design is I can get out of the red zone here. An average bulb in a hot or cold environment 24/7, 365 days a year is constantly fluctuating. So you're gonna get a maximum of maybe 70 to 80% out of that bulb. But if I wanna get maximum burn, so to speak, out of that bulb, maximum intensity of a bulb, if I have an insulator like a T3, now I can get up to 100% capacity out of that bulb. So I'm going to gain 40% on average, more efficiency, more energy out of this bulb, thanks to that basically protected armor, I like to call it. So we're insulating it, we're protecting it more from temperatures, and it helps prevent it from any kind of moisture, debris, etc.
Do you have to purchase a separate sleeve for the bulb?
It comes that way. It's already been designed that way. So
it's if it breaks, it won't get anything in the Airstream.
Correct. I mean, you'd have to shatter the whole darn thing, but right. We got like 22-inch long bulbs that are racked and mounted. I mean, hopefully you're not going in with a baseball bat, but
no, but accidents happen, you know.
True. But yeah, we partner with Ultravation. Has their patented designs. Almost all their bulbs are manufactured by Philips, one of the biggest bulb companies in the world. So this is specifically designed and built that way. And so there's no extra steps you have to do. It's just when you take up a basic UVC bulb residentially and you put it next to our T3, upgraded brother, it's a clear quality design difference. It's so nice. So that's all I have in my house. I have everything downstairs. My basement is T3. So I'm like, why go halfway? Go all the way. And that's why commercially, this is the standard technology. We're not messing around. So just give it the best, and that's the way it goes, especially when these massive cooling, facilities. So this is important for you guys. Normally I lead this into the residential, but I'm going to skip through a lot of that. But this actually graph comes off of our commercial literature. A great explainer for surface versus Airstream. All right. So blue is considered surface, coil. Green, consider that Airstream. Why? At the bottom here, it says UV Matrix SI and UV Matrix AS. UV Matrix is the name of all of our commercial solutions. That is our line of commercial products. And then those letters signify what model or series of it. So SI stands for surface irradiation, right? Surface, coil. AS stands for Airstream. It's not rocket science, airborne. So we've confirmed, they've done all the research. They're saying, listen, great, if I'm talking to somebody, and this is important for you guys, you're going in, it's like, well, what do I want to solve for? When, where, why? We talked about that earlier. What do you want to solve for? Well, if I care about keeping the coils clean, making sure I'm not getting a science experiment, right? Maybe making sure that the walls inside that walk-in are the walk-in facility on the roof there, the walk-in unit, I don't have like black spores growing on it. Great, I'm going to keep those coils clean. So I'm dealing with a lot of surface area concerns, from E. coli to streptococcus, tuberculosis, all that type of stuff. Now, but as you move up the scale here, you're getting to more of an airborne concern. Airborne viruses like influenza A here in the middle, going up to things as dangerous as the ecovirus. So when people are on here talking about corona this and corona that, in the end, it is a bastardized spin-off of some level of an influenza. Granted, it's doing a lot of things different than the basic flu, but in the end, it's an airborne virus, okay? And it's also on surfaces. So the whole point here is this. If I was targeting influenza A, for example. And I say, great, I just put in a rack of bulbs in my rooftop. So as far as what I'm solving for 77% potential on influenza A. And for most organizations and companies, on average, I'm seeing they're mostly asking for a 70% success rate. Is pretty industry standard, I'm hearing. So great, you could stop there, but you're missing out on a higher potential if you can add in an Airstream solution on top of that, something in the main supply duct after that to give you a higher level of disinfection rate. Because now you're really targeting just that airborne environment versus just having a rack of bulbs in the coil that the air is passing by and passing through. Because with our Airstream stuff that I'll show you here in a second, our AS models have like daisy chain bulbs after each other, because as the air is passing through at a certain rate of speed, you're passing through 1, 2, 3, 4 bulbs in a row of UV light being given off in a supply duct. So you're increasing the irradiation factor of what's happening in the air as it's constantly passing by, again, 24/7, as long as your fans are moving air. So this is an important clarifier. I'm going to hit on it again later. But again, you got service, you got Airstream. I always ask people, what are you solving for? What is your level of disinfection rate you're looking to achieve? The average commercial application, we sell more SIs, and I'll show you in a little bit, our NEMA 4X rated enclosure option, than anything else. But nowadays, a lot of companies are realizing, or organizations, maybe we should be adding in, an Airstream solution on top of that to increase our abilities. So that being said, you ever want to dig into residential deeper? I got it all. High infiltration, there's our Orion generator. We have mini split ductless solutions because that's all over the commercial space and residential space. We even have room by room applications, portable desktop units. I'll show you that in a second. And then we have a whole lineup of residential options that actually apply residentially. And one of which at the top here, I've seen guys even use these on commercial things too. And I'll show you in a second. So again, residential, this is our entry-level throwaway stuff that we have available. It's actually, nobody makes throwaway options. We do. We have a beefed up version of that, increasing more PCO into the duct supply. This is our high-end duct solution for Airstream, but because Remy Halo from RGF is also advertised as a commercial in-duct solution, you could technically mount this in the ductwork as well. You might need more than one of these, depending on how much square footage and airflow you're dealing with. But I'm going to show you our proper dedicated commercial solutions here in a bit. But this can be applied in both ways. You could do up to about 5,000 square feet with this thing. So, and it has the ability to add on some easy lights for coils. But again, those are designed for residential. That's only a 12-inch, 17-inch bulb. Our commercial stuff is a lot bigger. So that's the one that has ionization plus UV going on inside of both of them. So. We even make a zero ozone version of that. There's no ionization on it, but instead of all the metal surface around the bulb being treated with the titanium dioxide to create PCO, we have 3 full strips of carbon so the carbon actually absorbs the ozone. So this is technically a zero ozone product, but they're both generating PCO. It's just this one absorbs itself and you're good to go. And both these products are lifetime warranty products. You're just swapping out power heads. God forbid if everything ever went wrong, the only thing go wrong is inside that power head. So we just ship you a new one. You pull that up, pop it on, you're done. And you're coming back every 2 years to change the bulb. And that's it. So that's our cross-reference against that. I could send you a PDF of this. We cross-reference this layer showing how much it exceeds our competition on that design. This has been great for light commercial. A lot of guys, I don't know about Long Island, but I know I travel all across upstate New York, Syracuse, Rochester, north of Albany, a lot of old properties. I live right here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We have the old Bethlehem Steel site that's been repurposed over the years. They built a casino there and everything else. So we're seeing a lot of these older buildings being brought back to their beauty and repurposed into commercial spaces. So not every building guy throws in ductwork. So if there's no ducted supply, it's some pretty stagnant air. So this is our portable air purifier, residential, commercial. There's a washable air filter in there. There's a UVC wavelength bulb in there. And then right behind the front grill is a full strip of carbon that has the PCO on it. So you're getting filtration, you're getting air purification, photocatalytic oxidation in a small 9-inch by 9-inch, 3 inches high, stainless steel, attractive little box. So you're getting all the PCO, you're getting the UV. This is a great way to say, great, I'm basically trying to deal with a small room, office, locker room, whatever, room by room, and I don't have anything else kind of going on in there. Or maybe you're looking to kind of kick things up a notch in that space. Maybe you have some ductwork and stuff's being treated, but somebody really wants a next level inside that room. But this is going to handle up to 500 square feet. So this has actually been an unsung hero. I've actually started to see an increase of sales of these because some people maybe don't believe the technology works. So I have one contractor in central Pennsylvania. He puts this on the job site immediately and says, let me know if you don't notice that room being better in the next few days, especially if it's a property that has allergy concerns and things of that nature too. Ductless, huge. I don't care if you're residential, especially commercial. These things are everywhere now. I've been on college campus sites that have the big commercial solutions, and then they're just doing little mini Band-Aid repairs with ductless, or they're doing new buildings on site and they're making ductless standard. I'm sure you guys, I saw some heads nodding, you know it. Long story short, these things are Petri dishes on the wall. You have to have a service contract on these. You have to be cleaning these, especially environments that have things like yeast, beer, pizza shops, restaurants. I've seen some pretty ugly situations where if somebody hasn't cleaned these things in 3 years, the blower wheels getting choked up, they can barely move. You take the cover off, you got black spores up inside these things. This isn't fear mongering. This is the truth. It's just the filtration that they put on these shouldn't even be called filtration. I just call it a dust bunny screen, because all those particulates are getting trapped on the coil. You got a lot of moisture going on. If you didn't, measure the room for load, you might have too much moisture going on. And again, moisture plus particulates. So we said, great, let's take our UVC wavelength bulbs, make mini versions of them. We surrounded them with some directional shielding, so you can make sure the light only shines one direction. So depending on the manufacturer, you might be able to fit these up behind the coil. Maybe you have to fit them down lower and then shine the light straight up towards the coil. Some guys are shining them out at the blower wheel. It's up to you guys in your design, but that's a universal kit. It's got an auto sensing power supply, so it doesn't care if that was wired for 110 or 240. It'll find what it needs, lights the bulbs up, and you're good to go. Again, because these are so tiny, we couldn't make these with T3 level engineering, so you just have to come back every year and change the bulbs. That's it. And they have self-adhesive mounts too, so you don't have to worry about hard mounting all this stuff. So that's our universal kit for ductless. There's your Orion generator. Again, not just for filtration. We have a lot of guys applying these on ice machines and PTAC units, but we also have UVC solutions for PTAC ice machines. So we do have a kit for that as well. But some people like to go the ionization route. Filtration, again, we make it all. You name it, we make it as far as for residential applications. So here's the commercial. And there's really, these are the key ones, but there's a couple other ones I'll show you too. We have an easy light version of this stuff. SI, obviously surface area coil. AS, Airstream, right? Not rocket science here. 4X, that's our NEMA 4X rated enclosure. So that allows you to mount everything on the outside equipment on the rooftop. And then all you got to do is cut access for the bulbs. So done. Everything is easily accessible. You can change the bulbs from outside the unit. It's a great solution for smaller rooftop units if you can't fit our racks in them. And then, as I hinted, Upper Room is something that's gaining some ground now with this crazy pandemic, because this has been in the handbook forever. And it wasn't popular here in the States. According to the factory, they said they've actually been doing this more overseas in Europe. So now we're bringing this back from an educational standpoint for wide open, large room spaces. And I'll show you that in a bit. So there's our blue and green graph again. So as I remember, this came from our commercial training. We're reminding people, are you dealing with coil and Airstream with your UVGI solutions? So the biggest question as a contractor, when I get on the job site, what am I solving for? What does my customer want to do? Again, coil, Airstream, etc., per that graph. So there's your rack. Again, these are shipped telescoping. The way they're designed, we make the nice racks to fit the full width. There's a standardized height. There's a couple different SKUs, different models, but in the end, it comes down to the quantity of bulbs you're looking to spec on the design and the amount of surface area you're looking to cover. And then if it's a tall coil, that's going to determine how many racks you install to cover from top to bottom if it's a big unit. But these actually telescope in, so they're actually shipped in square boxes, which is nice because then you just pull it out of the box and just pull it out to fit the full width, rack it, mount it. And all of our commercial hardware, doesn't matter if it's this series or the rest of UV Matrix, everything is designed with auto sensing power. So we used to sell these years ago with a 110 versus a 200 plus. Now everything's auto sensing, just like that mini split ductless product. So you don't have to worry about that from a wiring standpoint. But again, primarily targeted at surface contact, but technically because air is passing by the bulbs through the coil, you are gaining some Airstream disinfection, but not a true Airstream solution. Here's your 4X we talked about. So Everything gets mounted on the outside of the unit. You're just cutting access holes for the bulbs. You gasket it, you seal it all, and you're done. And then if you come back to change the bulbs, you're just going to access the external panel with the 2 screws and change it. This is available in a single or dual bulb application. So if there's really, really small units, you just need 1 bulb. Great, there you go. Again, everything's auto power sensing. Again, depending on the amount of disinfection rate you're looking for, you're gaining your surface contact, but you're going to gain a little bit of Airstream off of that too, but not a true Airstream solution. This is your Airstream solution. This is going to be no coil benefit at all. This is you're putting something like this in a supply duct. You, depending on the size and the capacity of the supply duct and the amount of feet per minute of air moving through there, you might need more than one of these. Depending on the length of the bulbs that you've spec'd on this rack, we might need to have another one on the other side width of the trunk line, right, coming across so the bulbs meet in the middle. Because for maximum disinfection rate, you need to have 80% of the width of the ductwork covered. So if the duct is so huge that even one rack's not reaching across, we may need to spec it with another one coming across the other side to have meet in the middle. And then you can get these in like 3-4 bulbs, daisy chained, as you can see here. And that, again, is determining on how fast that air is passing through. What is my disinfection rate that I'm looking to gain? Because if you've got a lot of air cooking past, you might need 4 bulbs versus 3 bulbs, et cetera. But that's all AS. So, and again, we can get these in different length bulbs as well, depending on that. And the other, actually, I'll pause real quick. Last bullet point there. We can upgrade these, by the way, add in a little PCO if people are looking to do that. It's not a heavily requested item yet. It's seen more residentially because we have been able to accomplish a lot just with the UVC bulbs. But if people want to add on photocatalytic oxidation, great, we could talk about that. So now the biggest thing for education really today commercially is the upper room stuff, because it is so new to a lot of guys, even though it's been in the handbook for a while. This is our FS series. That's AKA Upper Room. So it's from a design standpoint, it's a simple, either stainless steel or our powder coated high-end metal boxes. They're not large at all. They're actually small units, and they have 2 UVC bulbs in there. But there's no motors. There's no fans. You guys are literally wiring this for power, and that's it, to power the bulbs. The biggest thing I know is a set of louvers in front of it to direct the light across the top of an upper room space. So in the bold emphasis here, you have 7-foot minimum installation height. So upper room triggers that wide open space we're talking about. So the reason why is these are by size about handling on average about 225 square foot of space. But the reason why it's called upper room is because there's a natural convective airflow. And they have found, and this has been used overseas, that, okay, cold air on the bottom room, hot air is rising, there's an actual movement of air. So as the air is naturally moving from low to high, and you're near one of these boxes, you're irradiating that air out in front of that unit. So obviously, the further away you move from the unit, the less irradiation that is being caught by the air. So if I was doing a wide open hallway, which is shown in chapter 62 of the handbook, you'll see they have this huge, it's an old New York hospital. I think it's not, I forget, I think it's called like St. Vincent's maybe. It doesn't exist anymore, but they had this massive hospital hallway, and they had the boxes like this mounted above each and every doorway coming off of the hallway, because that was a exposure point of things changing from space to space. So they want to make sure any air happening around that doorway was being affected by this type of technology. Then there was another image in the handbook where they show a wide open cafeteria, and they had these mounted in the corners, and then like 1 or 2 in the center to cover the distance. And they figured out that maybe that room only needed 4, but I couldn't see on the image if there's 4 behind me. Long story short, ours is designed to handle up to 225 square feet. You may need to have more than one of these in a wide open space. So again, no coils, no ductwork. This is a way to address a wide open airspace, maybe like a company's lobby or a wide open common area like a cafeteria, things of that nature. These are just a couple more graphs to represent helping people understand the distance, right, in regards to air irradiance. And again, all of this stuff, we have commercial grade literature for you on this. So this is just for a training perspective, but I have supported literature for all this stuff. We have the spec sheets, et cetera. So that's the upper room application. As a reminder, I rep a lot of manufacturers who we do in New York as well. So we're not just UV guys, but I want to make sure you guys understand that we're here to support you guys right now with Ultravation, but a lot of other stuff. So as I promised, I'm going to stop recording here so we can have some Q&A. Stand by. And thanks for your time. Thanks for holding the questions to the end. And I
Not
hope
a
you guys got a
problem.
lot of this. So